Good morning, everybody. This is Edward James Tagg, and I run a group called PASI, which stands for Pleiadians and Sirians International, giving support and training and help to Starseeds. And someone asked me the other day, like, how do I know if I'm a Starseed? What is a Starseed? And I had to go back through all my lists and look for a talk explaining, and I didn't have one. And I said, well, I better go back to basics and teach people or explain, what a starseed is, because it's very confusing. And if you go online, you can do a whole number of questionnaires. There's questionnaires anywhere. If you Google qualities of starseed or starseed questionnaires or how do I know if I'm a starseed, I think you'll find a whole gamut of them all, scroll down. Anyway, so I'm going to do my own. They're generally pretty accurate, but they sometimes get into the weird and wonderful. I don't like the ones that talk about different body types and they say things like a higher or lower body temperature more than normal, or almond-shaped eyes, or some of them even say a big head or a small head or a peanut-shaped head, or can't tolerate the cold. Because that would be so incredibly wrong, because you can get starseeds from Africa and starseeds from Iceland, and that would just be silly. And so the reason for that is that it's our soul that's a starseed, not the body. And so I'm just trying to turn this message off. Hold a sec, give me a sec. That's it, good, okay. So it's our soul, it's not the body. So all physical bodies can be starseeds. Right, I'm going to get into the whole list. Now, someone online put 13 qualities, and I agree generally they were pretty good, but there were some that were definitely wrong. And I haven't even checked out. I think it's really highly important that if you look at a starseed questionnaire or a starseed website, scroll to the very, very bottom and find out who the author is, and then Google the name of the author, and then find that person and look at their face. Because the eyes are the windows of your soul, and you'll be able to discern. So I can guarantee that not every author on the internet is going to be a starseed as such. Because there's quite a lot of reptilians and quite a lot of humans that kind of want to jump on this trendy bandwagon at the moment, particularly of being a Pleiadian. Anyway, so I'm going to get into my list. And by the way, it's now all on YouTube, so click your buttons, your buttons, notifications, a bell icon, blah-de-blah, subscribe, So the main one is that they feel that they don't belong here. So what does that mean? Well, we love being alone as starseeds, but when we're alone and we're watching everybody, like I remember at the school playground on my very, very first day, this kid yelled at me, Pom, go home. And Pom stands for Prisoner of Mother England, and they didn't like the English back then. They just said, Pom, go home. And that's not the only thing that made me feel isolated, but I always felt that I was completely alone. Even on the school ground, I only really had one friend, but I didn't have many friends. I sat I sat on the school rugby field and I watched everybody. I didn't watch them playing sports. I'd pick up a daisy and I just inspect it. So you get into your own little world, but you feel like you don't belong. And so you might just spend an hour looking at a daisy or inspecting it, or just watching a bird in a tree while everybody's busy playing sports on the school field. So that's that feeling that you just do not belong. It's not like with animosity. You're not saying, well, I don't belong here and I hate those horrible people and they're nasty and I'm never going to talk to them again. It's not that. You still have love in your heart. You have more love in your heart than most people. But this feeling that this is not me, and I go into my internal world and I belong on some other dimension, or I belong on some other feeling, or I belong to a race of people or that I've never met, or fictional characters. Like for me, I love superheroes, so I would live in the mind of a superhero, but I never lived out there, and I never lived with my school chums, if you like. So that's the feeling you don't belong. Now, one of the powerful things is just intuitive, is based on what I just said. You'll be very, very feeling based. Now, It doesn't mean that you reject logic, but when you're reading your school books, and people are saying, Einstein said E equals mc squared, and this is 1 + 1 = 2, and this is just so, and the teacher just tells you that way. Well, sure, you accept logic, but sometimes if it grates or it irks or goes against your feelings, you'll actually trust your feelings more, and you'll be very, very intuitive about that. So I saw a blue hand against the window, and it was strong. It was a ghost. So you'll have very intuitive feelings, even psychic feelings or premonitions. Like for me, when I went on holiday to Los Angeles, I woke up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, Dad, something's wrong, really badly wrong. And then we found out that the plane got cancelled because it was faulty, and I just kind of knew. So you'll just have this intuitive feeling. Even if you're not a powerful psychic, you'll still have a feeling. You'll just wake up, in a cold sweat, or 3 o'clock in the morning. You know you have to go outside and look or attend to something. And then later that'll develop into psychic abilities, like I know when there's a blackbird caught in the net of surrounding my tomatoes, and he's picking at my tomato. Okay, so moving on. The other thing is that you'll be an empath. Now, an empath is a highly sensitive person, so you can get wounded easily, but you also forgive very easily. But your feelings are just your feelings are kind of really your own shield or your own boundary in order to protect yourself. But your feelings are very, very pure and very dear to you. So everything you feel kind of defines you. So based on that thing about being intuitive and feeling based, is that you'll also be very empathetic, and you'll feel your own feelings very deeply, and you'll be a feeling based person. Also willing to be vulnerable. Like if you watch me when I'm training and talking to people, sometimes I'll just admit that I'm feeling sad, and that takes huge amounts of courage. So it takes huge amounts of courage to be a highly sensitive person and to display vulnerability and to go deep into your own feelings. Watching movies, like I watch every day, I have to remind myself of my feelings, and so I watch these little sick puppy dogs that have got an injury, and they take them to the vet and they cure and heal them. So I'm very connected to that, and so as an empath, you'll feel everybody's feelings really, really well. So you might have a conversation with a guy at the pub, drinking a beer, or even just a real estate agent. But as the real estate agent is sort of coming at you and going rah 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 rah, like with all this ego and pretense, you'll actually feel their feelings behind that mask, and you'll go, "Are you okay?" And they go, "What do you mean, am I okay?" And they'll say, "Well, I just kind of feel that you're feeling a bit disconnected right now with it." And they'll get offended. But if you don't challenge them, sometimes you can feel other people's emotions and feelings stronger than they can feel it themselves. And then from that, you'll also be really connected to babies and children. And when you pick a baby up, sometimes they gaga and goo, and they look past your aura or the spirit guide standing behind you, and they're just amazed. And babies are just in awe of you, and children just instantly trust you. And the same with animals and dogs. You can find a scary dog that barks at everybody and is really, really angry. And sometimes I know someone right now, and they're a reptilian, and they have a dog, and this dog is always highly charged. This dog is extremely nervous, it would bark at a butterfly or a leaf falling off a tree. It's always highly, highly, highly nervous. But when this dog comes to me and I pat him, just instantly goes calm. He just rolls over and shows his belly. So that you'll have that effect on animals, babies, and children. Now, so you'll also kind of, on the feelings-based issues, you'll also kind of be extremely curious. So you'll be a seeker, and you'll ask the questions why. So like, yes, but Dad, why is the sky blue? And yes, but why? Yeah, but why did they, drive off into the sunset in a movie? You want to know why. But beyond just wanting to know why, which is a good curiosity when you're doing your school, your school classes, you'll also be a seeker. So when people tell you, like, man stood on the moon, or the Russians did this, or Sasquatch, Bigfoot, or the whatever, or Loch Ness monster, or whatever it is. These sort of conspiracies. When you're growing up, you, as a seeker, you still want to move beyond and know what and know why to everything. So when I studied psychology and I studied philosophy in London, I didn't necessarily want to go to university and to get a degree, because it wasn't about the piece of paper. I just wanted to get behind the mysteries of everything. And even psychology I found very, very boring. I was really disappointed in social psychology, because they were stating the bleeding obvious, when they discovered, students in psychology, experiments did this, this and this. And I didn't find that fulfilling. But I still kind of intuitively knew that there was something hidden behind that. And I wanted to know about philosophy, and then I wanted to know about Eric Bohm and Burr and Rupert Sheldrake. I wanted to know about quantum physics. I wanted to learn about Gurdjieff and Ouspensky. I wanted to find out if anybody had the hidden secrets to life. And I realized that I had this metaphor that knowledge was like a glass ceiling, that most people would butt their heads up against this glass ceiling and feel it and say, okay, I'm done with searching. But superheroes, like the Starseeds, we literally blast and we punch a hole, or we realize that the glass ceiling isn't even there, it's invisible, and that knowledge goes on and on and on, it's infinite. And that's when I had spiritual enlightenment. I just moved through my glass ceiling, and I went beyond Bohm and Bohr and Rupert Sheldrake and Einstein and whatever. I just moved through all of it. So so they have a curiosity and also a quiet wisdom. So like you hear about a child that has a wisdom beyond the years. Now quite often they can have a life that is full of struggle and challenges, and even child abuse and sexual abuse. I mean, horrendous amount of abuse, because starseeds need to choose either a reptilian or a lifestyle, or abuse, or excuse me, to get a challenge so they can learn how to help others. So that's the main thing. We're here to help others. So starseeds really love serving humanity and serving animals or the environment or children or the elderly. We love being of service. And even if you go through spiritual enlightenment and all your spiritual growth to become a seeker, the top deal, if you like, is this need to serve and to help people once you've gained this knowledge and this wisdom and this intelligence. But we quite often as starseeds choose this challenge, and this challenge is very important for our growth, to help knowing how to serve and how to help others. But the other thing about sorry, excuse me, I just woke up. The other thing about going through a challenge like horrendous, I won't talk about my abuse story, but it was like horrific for 6 years. It was like, it would be in the news today if it was on, like locked away and hidden. And anyway, the point being is that you can go through horrendous abuse or challenges, but it doesn't show on your face. Like, you still can radiate beauty and positive energy, even though you're at the time you're going through a hellish struggle. So if you know someone that's you think they should be suicidal because their life's a mess, or it doesn't mean that because that your life is a mess that means that you're a starseed. It just means that sorry, it just means that you'll shine and radiate love and beauty and positiveness, and you'll never give up on humanity. You'll never that's the other really, really important thing, is that you'll never slide. God, there used to be a term in Christianity, and they used to call it a backslider. When you slid down a slippery slope and you've slid. I remember it funny, in born again Christianity. So you'll never be a backslider. And what I mean by that is that your virtues, your integrity, and your strength, and your courage, and your principles are everything. And you will never, never, never slide against your own principles. And even if you go through hell, you'll never blame others. You'll never say, oh, well, I went through, a crap life, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm just going to become a criminal. I'm going to steal things. because, they did that to me and the world is evil, and so they deserve it. And so, but Starseeds never, never, never do that. So we're the eternal superheroes, and we never slide on our principles, and our integrity is sky high, like sky high integrity. Now, Tracy, who runs the group with me, please talk to her about that, because she does. She gets tickles down her hair and through her eyelids, and she works with her guides, and she does readings for people on their integrity, their empathy, their compassion, and she works through about 35 virtues. So Starseeds' virtues are of prime importance, and we never slide, even if we go through hell. Like, when you see all these Hollywood movies, and in all these Hollywood movies, it's all about love, winning through in the end, and that if you just have faith, and if you cling, with almost zero hope at your darkest hour, you're still going to pull through. And that's what the Hollywood movie is all about. Well, that's the Starseed. That's the Starseed tenant, if you like, of how they live. Okay. Excuse me about this. So they can struggle and they can go through everything like that. Now, the other thing is that's really hugely important for everything that I've already described. It's pretty obvious, but they also have a calling, a mission. So this mission is based on all of your virtues and being a seeker and finding the answers, how to help people. So we're basically here as superheroes to save the planet. Now, it may not be the planet necessarily, although I spoke to a Starseed yesterday, and they were literally an environmental scientist, and they were a consultant for animals and the welfare of a habitat, like a reserve in California or Arizona, wherever she was. So sometimes it is saving the planet literally, but quite often it's saving humanity, and not just being a nurse or a carer, but sometimes it can be a larger scope, like me. Like every time, I give all these talks for free because I feel so strongly about doing this Starseed mission that I give it all away for free. Well, pretty much. I ask for donations once in a while. So we feel really strongly about our mission to help humanity at the growth of, civilization. And then Starseeds are also kind of, because of that, because they're superheroes, they're mainly superheroes because they have this intuitive awareness that there's light and dark. So those light and dark polarities that are really diametrically opposed. They're strong polarities, and from our early childhood, when we watch a movie, like a great movie for a Starseed would be the Neverending Story. So in the Neverending Story, Atreyu and the boy reading the story, he's swooping in as a superhero and he's doing what he can to save the entire world have been overcome by the nothing. And the nothing is basically, you can think of, the reptilian control of roboticism. And the nothing would be like a blackness, or darkness, or evil. And so, interestingly enough, in the Neverending Story too, the queen was evil, but the boy Atreyu, I think it was the boy Atreyu, I think there's two boys, he had many wishes, but he had one wish left. And you think the boy could use this wish. It makes me emotional thinking about it. It's really, really emotional story. You think the boy would be really selfish, and they push this boy to become selfish. Go on, wish yourself some jewels or some gems, or a car or a hot rod, or a good bow and arrow. And so they try and entice the boy to make wishes for his own selfish needs. But in the end, he doesn't. He says, I wish that you had a heart. So he was completely selfless, and he knew he could stop the nothing and the evil from the evil witch by just giving her love and compassion. It's a beautiful story. Makes me emotional. So he said, I wish you had a loving heart. The same as in... excuse me. I can't edit out all these coughs. The same as with Jim Carrey plays the Grinch, and he has this heart expansion experience as well. But that's the point of this mission and this calling and this empathy. And we know that in order to heal others, we want for them more than we want for ourselves. And that's really important as a starseed, is that sometimes starseeds can suffer from what I call carers syndrome, is they think all about other people more than themselves, and so they suffer neglect. So it's like the typical old woman who lives in a shoe. She'll have holey, knickers, her underwear will be full of holes, but her children will have the Tommy Hilfiger t-shirts and the expensive, running shoes and all the gold rings and, a rich car and everything, but she will go and she'll negate all of her needs. And that's quite a classic starseed problem. And because of that struggle, quite a lot of starseeds will actually struggle with suicide, but they'll never really commit suicide because they know that their life here is very, very, very important. So everything, the knowledge that I've gained, like, and how I'm teaching now is so huge. It's taken 58 years. I mean, if I committed suicide now, it'd be such an incredible waste, and you can feel that waste. So starseeds toy with feelings around suicide, but it's really feelings of it's too hard, I want to go home, I want to go back to my home planet. But they'll never really commit suicide based on selfish needs, like it's a horrible, nasty world, I don't like everybody, I hate. We don't do that. So I'm going from my list, by the way. So because of that, they kind of can sometimes go through a dark night of the soul. But even when they hit rock bottom, the good thing about a starseed is because we've got excuse me, I'm sniffling now. It's either my nose or my throat or a cough. Okay, right. We always know, because we have the strong angelic connection, and we know, I gave a talk a while ago called Angelic Shared Parallel Thinking, and I displayed the idea that our angels are literally blended inside our consciousness. So even when we're suicidal or at our complete worst, we've always got this sort of quiet little angel voice in our head. It's okay, just hang in there, you're going to be all right, just hang in there. And quite often if starseeds say a prayer, or if they have a need, within 24 hours, whammo, it's solved, it's answered. So we can, be semi-homeless and almost suicidal, and then click your fingers within 24 hours. You'll telephone a starseed and say, are you still homeless? Are you okay? Have you paid your bills, or did you get out of that house with that horrible reptilian landlord that you were staying with, or that really abusive relationship? Said, oh yeah, great, yes, my friend came through and this money was in my account, I didn't know it was there. So they kind of, they pull through really, really quickly and successfully. So it never gets that bad where they're in total dire straits, although it can almost. Okay, so starseeds will also be, because they have this feeling of this otherworldly feeling, they'll also be really interested in science fiction. So like you might either go for Star Trek or Star Wars, and when you're watching like even Battlestar Galactica, that's actually kind of a true story, if you like, a metaphor for the Pleiadians and Sirians battling against the reptilians, and they lost the war and they were chased across the universe, and there's been a battle ever since, and they're kind of on the run. And then the last minute is kind of hope and overcoming, a bit like, Star Wars, like A New Hope. So science fiction, also superheroes. So that feeling, Superman was a real big one for me because he flew. Now the other thing that we do is that we're obsessed with flying, and I don't mean like getting your pilot's license so you can one day hire or buy a Cessna and become a stick jockey or whatever you call them. I mean flying in the astral realm when you sleep. So when you sleep, when you have a flying dream and you go to a UFO, or when you go to another world that's so different from this world, and when you're flying really, really fast and you're gripping your stomach muscles, trying to go higher and surge higher and higher and higher, flying over a fence or trying to climb through a window to get away from a reptilian, or levitating and pushing off the walls. Or I used to stand on a skateboard or like a mat, and when I pushed off this mat, it would give me the ability to levitate. So we're kind of, when we sleep, and if we dream that we're flying, we love it and we adore it, and then we wake up and we walk. And I had a dream that I was flying, but that I woke up and I knew it was a dream, so I climbed on top of my house roof and I jumped off and I could fly again. And then I said, oh my God, this is real. I'm awake. I'm actually a human on Earth and I really, really, really can fly. And then I woke up for real and I thought, oh shit, excuse my language. I was having a dream inside a dream that I was dreaming, but now I'm awake. And then, so the angels kind of give you this level of awareness that you're dreaming, but you know you're dreaming. But flying is a major part of that. And then later on as a starseed, you might get into a rescuing mission, like where you become an advisor. So I've visited the Queen of England about 7 times, and I've been an advisor to her. Or you might be a comforter, where you find someone at a disaster scene and you give them lots of love and comfort. And you also might go to bomb sites where you're looking for dead bodies, or you're taking a search dog, like I experienced when I went to a bomb in Beirut in my dream state. So you might do actually angelic work, and you might know that you're doing this work as a starseed. Now, the other thing about starseeds in terms of those virtues is that you'll also be quite mature. So even at a young age, and they always refer to like a little child who's 5 years old, or even a baby, and you say, oh well they're an old soul, and you can just see this maturity. And they also, a starseed might also kind of feel regal, like royal, like a member of the royal family. So when I was when I was young, I had a career as a ballet dancer, and I naturally slotted into the prince. Now this was Hansel and Gretel, Hansel and Gretel by Humperdinck, and I was nighttime, and I was the prince. Now that's the only photograph I've got of me doing ballet, the only photograph I've got, and it's very damaged, so you can't even see my face. And there's my ballerina there, and her name was Vicky or Victoria Connolly Moore, and that's me doing ballet. And I was always upset, well not upset, because the costumes were really simple, and I learnt to make my own costumes. So what's the point I'm trying to make again? Oh yes, so I slotted into that role as the prince. So as a starseed, you might feel princely or royal or regal, and your purity is probably your most important of all of your virtues. That you're pure. You know that Julie Andrews purity from The Sound of Music. And someone joked with me the other day and said, "What are we going to do with the problem that is Maria?" There's a song, and how does it go? What do you do with the problem of? Anyway, so the problem of being Maria, because Julie Andrews in that Maria role, she wanted to sing and she wanted to go to church all the time. And if you see that movie Joan of Arc, when she's a little girl, when Joan of Arc's a little girl, she just wants to go to the Catholic Church and confess, 5 times a day, every day. And the priest gets annoyed with her and said, well, you don't have to come to church, 5 times a day. But she feels it really strongly. So that's the purity, and that goes with the royal and the regal quality. And for that reason is that we can't do pettiness and we can't do fake. And I'm talking about this because this was my brother's wedding, and my brother always behaved like an idiot. And my brother did this pose, and they said, Edward, can you pull a funny face? And they said it to me 10 times, and I said, no, I don't want to pull a stupid face. And I didn't say I don't like fake, but this is the only time you'll ever see me pull a stupid or fake or silly face. And this is a photograph of me at my brother's wedding. And he's pretending to be a walrus. He always did, because he had this moustache, he always did impressions that he was a walrus. Like the Beatles, I am an Eggman, I am an Eggman, I am the walrus, But this is me pulling a goofy face. But that's the only time you'll get me pulling a stupid, ugly face, because starseeds, we just don't like fake. Now, my spiritual teacher channeled Pleiadians, and she said that to do with that slippery slope, that backsliding thing, is that the devil or demons or the devil's workers, what they do is they get you losing your integrity, or you're losing your indignity. And there's a word called infradig, and infradig means it's beneath your dignity. So infra, I-N-F-R-A, and dig, D-I-G, which comes from dignity or dignatum. So infra dignatum means beneath or beyond, beneath your dignity. So a starseed will never go and be infradig or infradignatum, and they will never do that, which they forced me to. And because starseeds generally know that when you're around a bunch of idiots, if you lose your dignity, then you'll slide, because the devil will say to you, "Oh, well, you pulled a funny face, so it's just nothing. Well, just have a sip of beer, or just have a pill of ecstasy, or have an injection of snort cocaine." And it's nothing. It's no big deal, And so if they get you to slide, and then you feel guilty that you slid a tiny bit, so then they use that guilt against you, and the devil or the devil's workers, they get you to slide all the way, and do shoplifting or steal a car, or to get trendy in with your mates, because regular humans and reptilians, or I don't know about reptilians, but regular humans are scared of being not with the in crowd, and being with the in crowd is everything. So if you're a baby soul, security and being part of the group is very, very, very important. And being a young soul, you want to achieve recognition, so it's hugely important. But starseeds, we don't suffer from that. We don't have those qualities of the 5 stages of soul development of humans. So we don't have that problem. So we won't slide on our dignity, and we stay pure no matter what. And dignity is very, very important. So if you look at some really famous starseeds, like Paul Newman is a starseed, and when he married his wife, they stayed married for years, and Paul Newman never wanted to go to all those Hollywood rah-rah fake parties. I don't think he went to any of the parties, and he just stayed at home with his wife, and he married her for many, many years, and in the end I think he made sauces, not pasta sauces, but he made mayonnaise and stuff like that, Paul Newman. So that's what starseeds are like, and they don't do petty. So if there's a really petty argument in the office, with all the secretaries sort of like pointing a finger and teasing other kids, or teasing the geeks, if you're a cheerleader or whatever, they don't get involved in that, and they stand up for injustice as well. So a starseed is going to be the one who's usually the girls, they love dyeing their hair blue. That's a typical Sirian starseed, because they're kind of like extroverts, and they're like superheroes, and they'll be in against the reptilian bully in the playground, and they'll say, you stole lunch money off my friend, who'll be like a geek or a quiet, soft, sensitive type, and they'll stand up for injustice. So injustice is hugely important for a starseed. I'm moving right along. So starseeds will always be spiritual, will naturally, and I don't mean sort of overtly, spiritual in terms of like loving religion and reading the Bible. That's not what I mean. I mean spiritual in terms of when they're around animals, and when they're around trees, and when they're just watching leaves move in a tree, or when they see a sunset, they'll tear up and get emotional just from Mother Nature if they see waves being really strong. So a lot of starseeds will actually be surfers. I know someone who knows a surfer at the moment, so I'm giving a plug. I'm really happy that they're spending time with this beautiful Sirian surfer. They surf, because surfers are out there on the waves and they're experiencing nature all the time. When I was surfing in St. Clair Beach in Dunedin, a black shape went underneath me, literally under my surfboard, and it was a seal, or a big sea lion, a seal. And I was terrified, and when it came up I thought it was going to be a shark, but it wasn't. It was sticked its head up and it was a seal. And it was just so beautiful. It was a real spiritual moment. So when I say starseeds are spiritual, they're spiritual in that way. And I was body surfing in the rain, in winter, in the cold, in Warrington Beach in Dunedin also, and this orca killer whale put its head up a few meters away and stared at me, and I was just in awe of this killer whale, this orca. I don't like that word, killer whale. And I got channeled through my spiritual teacher, through Pleiadean guides, and they said that the orca was feeling miserable and sickly and poorly that day, and he looked at me inspired like you would look at a butterfly, and so I inspired an orca one day in the rain at a beach in Warrington, which I thought was quite beautiful. So when I say starseeds are spiritual, they're spiritual in that sense. They'll be drawn to holistic health. So starseeds naturally, like I'm drinking water with lemon juice in it at the moment. So starseeds will naturally prefer nature and herbs and alternative forms of health. I mean, it doesn't mean that they'll avoid going to the doctor or they'll avoid getting a PET scan or a CAT scan or an MRI. It just means that if they have a choice, they'd prefer to use herbs or an osteopath or iridologist or acupuncturist, or they'd prefer that instead of total mainstream, like lots of drugs and chemicals inside their body, and the after effects of chemicals. So starseeds also like a lot of alone time. I've kind of made reference to this need to be in nature and alone time, so I've already made reference to that. Starseeds also love looking at the stars. Obviously, that makes perfect sense. And then they know how to find their star system, or even if they don't know where they're from, if they're Sirian or they're Pleiadean, they'll kind of get drawn to a certain star system. I used to get drawn looking at Pleiades because it's so tiny and beautiful. It's like 5 or 6 dots far off to my left. And then you've got Orion's belt, which is 3 dots, very, very bright, and that's where the reptilians live. And then far off to the right, the upper right, that's Sirius, which is my star system. But when you look at all stars, you're just kind of in awe, and it feels like a warm, homely place to be. Like if you were out there, you would never be scared, to be an astronaut and or watching a sci-fi movie. So I really love looking up at the stars. And when you go out in the country, like when I go to Muriwai Beach in New Zealand or somewhere way out in the country, and all the stars are just so clear because there's no smog, you're just elated. You're looking at it and it's sort of pressing on your eyeballs, and you're looking at it all and you're seeing shooting stars. I saw a shooting star the other day, but it wasn't a shooting star, it was a meteor shower, and there was about 50 or 100 meteors all clumped in a group shooting across the sky, and that was about 5 nights ago, and I was just in awe. So I think I've kind of covered most or all of the starseed qualities. The other one that I wrote up here is they're very deep, and I think that pretty much goes without saying in terms of being a seeker. They'll look for the deeper meaning. So starseeds are very deep, very feeling based, very otherworldly. They're non-compliant. They're completely anti-authoritarian. If someone in authority in a job, like when I was working in Pizza Hut, or they tell you to do it, you really, really go against authority. You won't listen, or you don't care. Not you don't care, I don't mean that way, but they just really block against authority. So that's quite a strong thing. They're here on a mission. They've got a strong calling, and no matter what, even if they go through an impossible struggle, at the 11th hour they'll still pull through, and they've got an angelic voice that sort of guides and helps them through that. They'll love science fiction. They'll love babies and animals and children. Very empathetic, very feeling based towards other people's feelings. Very sincere. Very, very sincere. Very royal and very pure, just like the typical superhero. Emotional. There's a beautiful scene in Captain America when this boy, he's played by Chris Evans, of course, but they had to do CGI to make him look skinny, because he's not skinny, he's like a bodybuilder. But he's really skinny, and he gets bullied all the time. Anyway, he goes into this machine, he gets this chemical put through his body to be made into a superhero, and he's going through all this pain. And he said, no, I can do it, I can. So I can't talk about it any longer because I just get so emotional. But it's just that point that starseeds can go through hell and they'll still pull through. So, excuse me. I need a little mini moment to centre into my own feelings. So that's it. That's Starseeds. I hope that helps someone. Thank you, Eve, and thank you, Rihanna, and thank you, everybody else who's been watching. I didn't say hello to begin with. I'll put this on YouTube, even with all the coughing and, fussing with my nose and drinking water, and I don't edit things out. You just kind of get me as I am. And it's getting humid and sticky here in New Zealand, and I think I've been talking long enough. So that's Starseeds. The other thing about Starseeds is that we see number sequences. We see 1111, or we see, I saw 333. And when I flew to Los Angeles, I was in 33G, that's my seat number. And when I flew out of Los Angeles, I flew in 33H. And I saw 33333 on the clock. And then in the morning I saw 7333 on the clock. So number sequences, intuitive, feeling, anti-authoritarian, struggle, dark night of the soul, wisdom, empathetic, highly sensitive, science fiction, babies, animals, children, maturity, royal, pure, integrity, virtues, being a seeker, spiritual, not liking petty or fake, holistic health, stars, alone time, numbers. I think I've covered everything. So bless you. Bigs, hugs and kisses to all my fellow starseeds and humans. And also how we feel about reptilians is that we also intuitively know that we never start an argument or a fight with a reptilian here on Earth, because we're doing it on the astral. We're always winning battles against the reptilians. There's literally wars going on all the time. But the way we engage with reptilians on Earth is we just ignore them. We just don't give them our time of day, because it's just a waste of time, because we know the manipulations and the games they play are just silly and just pointless and have no logic. So I've said enough. That's my talk on Starseeds. Bless you, and I love you very, very much. Thank you very, very much for someone who sent me, or people sent me donations. I'm paying off bills. Christmas always can be a little bit difficult on people or anybody. Okay, that's it. Got to the end of my talk. Bye. Lots of love.